Hi everyone, my name is Emily, founder of Focal Point Bookkeepers, and in today's video we will jump inside your QuickBooks account and set up your bank account for the first time by linking and creating your bank feed. This really is the foundation of automated bookkeeping. By getting your bank account connected to QuickBooks and sucking in your bank account transactions automatically, you can streamline your bookkeeping and save yourself a ton of time. There's a little bit of a learning curve, and once you get used to it, the more you regularly hop in here and categorize your transactions, the more accurate your data is going to be, and two, the more comfortable you'll be. And once you get over that hump, you can then start to do some of the more advanced things like creating rules and automations that can further streamline your bookkeeping and save you a bunch of time. So here we are on our home page of our QuickBooks account, on the dashboard home page, and you should see a widget here that says bank accounts, and it's prompting you to find and link your bank account. If for whatever reason this isn't here, you'll find it in your bank transactions tab. So transactions, bank transactions, and then you are also being prompted here to connect your account. So let's go ahead and click there, and then either enter your bank account here or, the bank name, the name of your bank here, or select from one of these major ones down below. QuickBooks is connected to tens of thousands of banks. So you should be able to find that your bank account is one of those as well. We're going to do Capital One in this video, and then you will be prompted to sign into your bank account like you normally would to facilitate that connection. So you'll get an additional pop-up that is a link to sign into your bank account, enter your username and password, and then hit sign in. Once you're logged into your account, depending on your bank, you might get this notification that you are about to share some of your information with Intuit. So you will need to continue in order to connect your bank feeds. On this next page, I'm being informed of additional data that Intuit is collecting. So just make sure that you are comfortable with all of this here, sharing bank account numbers as well, and account details. So this will be the information that's coming in from your bank transactions, the description, the dates, the amounts. So now I am looking at a list of every account that I have with Capital One. So this is really important that you are paying attention to select just your business accounts here. If you have personal accounts with this same bank, you're going to want to make sure that those are deselected. I am already sharing these accounts with other Intuit accounts, so they're already pre-selected here. I'm going to deselect all of these and just select the one that I am trying to hook up to my new QuickBooks account. If you have a business checking and a business savings, select both of those and then continue. And here I will be able to confirm which counts are selected to be connected to QuickBooks, and it'll also note which ones are already connected. So if you have any accounts connected to Intuit for whatever other purpose, those are checked and noted here as well. And then we're just going to go ahead and click authorize. All right, so now I'm back in my QuickBooks tab. I've gone through everything with my bank account sign-in. And here you'll see all of your accounts that were selected in the previous screen, and you'll be prompted to select which account you want specifically connected to this QuickBooks account. So I am going to select this account here and then map it to the business checking account. So ideally you've got a checking account and perhaps a savings account. You can do both of them at the same time if you have them with the same bank and the same login. So this, if you recall from the chart of accounts, is what we set up for your business checking and your business savings and the account number associated. So here we're mapping the bank feed to the account on the chart of accounts that we've already created in QuickBooks. So I've got those two. And down here, this is also important, so don't skip over this, is how far back QuickBooks is going to go to pull in data. So Capital One will allow you to go back and pull in 3 months worth of data. So you'll see here that it's going to start from April 10th and pull in everything back as far to this date. You can also choose today, this month, or a custom date. It's just not going to let you go any further than this max here. So if you are wanting to get more data into your QuickBooks account, perhaps a whole year's worth of data, there is a way to do that. You just need to upload it into QuickBooks using a spreadsheet. So we can go over that in another video as well. If that's something you're interested in, just comment or reach out to me and I will help you specifically with that, no problem. So it is possible. It just is not possible to go further back than your bank allows in this particular module. So I'm going to choose the max available and then hit connect. And we'll see QuickBooks is bringing in all of our transactions. All right, so what we see on the screen here is QuickBooks using any amount of information that it has to kind of pre-categorize some transactions in your bank feed. I would err on the side of caution here and assume that QuickBooks is wrong in selecting the correct category, especially because you don't have data in there. So it has no historical transactions to go on from your business. It has a ton of data, obviously, from any other businesses that it's connected to, but don't trust that it's categorizing your transactions appropriately, especially in the beginning. So did we get it right? If not, review categories to make changes. So we're definitely going to go into review and do this manually at first. If this screen looks different, it very well might be. QuickBooks is always kind of updating for better or worse, changing things. But the key takeaway here is just to not confirm and categorize as QuickBooks is suggesting. You do want to go and review and select and manually do this stuff at first. So now we are here in the bank transactions tab, and you'll see we've got the two accounts that we just connected listed up here, so you can toggle back and forth between these two. It'll list your balance here below. This name is what we've called it from our chart of accounts, so the number and name. And then here is the number of outstanding transactions that need to be reviewed and categorized. You can also toggle back and forth here by selecting the drop-down or clicking into one of these boxes here. So a number of different ways to navigate. And in our checking account, you'll see we've got 553 transactions that need to be categorized. Since we pulled in 3 months worth of transactions, we have a lot to review and categorize. So here is where we're going to go through all of the transactions and code them to the appropriate category. There are some settings here that you can take a look at over under this gear icon. Depending upon your bank, you might be able to see some of this other information that could be useful as you're going through this, particularly a to from. So you might be able to see the vendor name, which could be helpful in categorizing, or the check number. None of that data is pulling through for me, so I'm going to deselect these just to make it a little bit easier on the eyes. Turn on groupings is going to group this by month so that you can look at 1 month at a time, if that's helpful for you. And I wouldn't recommend changing much of anything else in here. If you've got a lot of transactions, you can bump this up to 300 per page so you're not constantly flipping through once you get to the bottom of 50. So we want to show as many as possible on this page just for ease of use. Otherwise, one thing to note before we start is you'll see that anyone that has a green confirm button and this little icon here, QuickBooks has assigned it a category. It doesn't mean that it's right. So like I mentioned, there's no historical data in this particular account yet. So confirming any of those without looking into it is not advisable. Once you get some data in here and you've categorized a lot of transactions, QuickBooks will start to learn, and these things will start to be more accurate, and you can actually create rules to automatically categorize them so you don't have to click any buttons. But it's really important just starting out that you are doing everything manually to, one, make sure you understand how the software works, and just get a feel for it before you move on to the more advanced features. One thing that's really easy to do as a new user is just to click like all of these shiny green buttons, and sometimes QuickBooks makes it almost seem like too easy, but if you don't know what's going on in the background, you can create a bigger mess to have to go and untangle later on in the future. So take some time in the beginning, do this very slowly and deliberately so you understand how the software works. So this one here, it needs me to review it. It's saying assign a category. It hasn't chosen anything for this transaction. We want, as a best practice, to always have a selection for a vendor if it's an expense, or this is noting a patient for a sale or deposit, whatever the case may be. But for HIPAA compliance, you're not going to have any of your patient names in here. And I'll show you how we can set that up so that we can code your deposits, but they're not attached to a particular customer name. That should remain in your EHR software. So this one, for instance, we're going to put in Kennebunk Savings Bank. And you'll see that if we start typing something that doesn't exist, it'll be prompting you to add new. It's defaulting to a customer because it is a deposit. We're going to leave the name, but we're going to change this to vendor because Kennebunk Savings Bank is not a customer. It is a vendor, and then we can hit save. So there's all sorts of other things you can add in here, which might be useful for some vendors, particularly if you have 1099 contractors. You are going to want to fill this out. But for most vendors, anyone that you're buying supplies from or reoccurring software payments, things like that, a simple name, vendor name is going to be all that you need here. So we're going to save this. And I'm going to categorize this as bank fees. So this is a deposit. If I were to kind of extrapolate on an example, maybe you were charged a bank fee and then it was reversed and deposited back into your account, then you're still going to categorize it to bank fees and it will just reduce that expense on your P&L. So that's really the essentials of going through and categorizing your transactions, making sure you've got a vendor name and choosing the correct category here. Anything else that you want to add, if you want to put a note in here so that you remember, like fee reversal. Man, my spelling or typing skills today are not on point, but here we go. So fee reversed from Kennebunk Savings Bank, and then I'm going to hit confirm. This will disappear from this section that I need to review and categorize. And then you'll note that it has been popped over into this categorize section. So if you ever need to undo it, you can go to categorize, click undo. It'll bounce it back over to review for you to make any changes that you need to. So it didn't just like disappear into the abyss. You can go back and find anything that you've already categorized and make updates if you need to. So nothing is really different about the ones that have been pre-categorized, just that they've populated a category in here for you as already. And you'll notice that this is an actual expense. It's a negative amount. So pretty straightforward. Your deposits are positive amounts. Your expenses are negative amounts. And I'm going to do the same thing here. And I'm going to add the vendor name. So here, since it was already an expense, the contact type has defaulted to vendor. And we've got our vendor name in there. I'm going to hit save. This has populated the professional fees as the category based on the bank detail that's in here. We can select that, or we can select any other item that's on our chart of accounts. So when we drop this list down, you'll see every category that we imported from the chart of accounts is here available to be selected as you review and categorize your transactions. So you can scroll through or you can type. Just make sure that what you are selecting is the right account type. So we want to make sure that this is an expense and we've got our category and our category number to match. It's in the 6000 series, and we can see indirect overhead expense for dues, and then I can confirm and clear that out of my bank feed. So here's a deposit, which perhaps is a patient payment or a combination of payments in a bank deposit. And what we're going to do here is we want this to be filled out, even though you're not keeping your patient names in here. So what we can do is set up really struggling with my typing skills. We can set up a all patients account as a customer type here. So again, this is defaulting to customer because it's a deposit. And then this will be the name that we can code all of those service fees to, so that we don't have to actually put the customer patient name in here, and we can maintain the HIPAA compliance that way. So that's all I'm going to do, all patients, save, and then we're going to select from one of our revenue accounts here. So I'm going to back out of this. And I can start to type in the numbers to see the revenue accounts. We've got our parent account here, the top one, which we don't want to code our revenue to. We want to use one of the sub accounts that we've created from our chart of accounts to create a bit more granularity on the reporting side. So later on down the line, if you want to see how much of your revenue is from self or copay patients versus insurance pay, or perhaps you have some other type of revenue stream where you're putting that into a revenue bucket and you want to keep them all separated out to analyze your performance down the line, or a number of other reasons, we want to select the one that is the most accurate. So I'm going to select that this is a self copay patient, and all of this money is going to be categorized to that account. So this next one we see in our feed, you'll notice here that this pre-selected account that QuickBooks has assigned it to is really way off from the bank detail. So just another example for cautioning you to do this manually and not to click all of the shiny green buttons that QuickBooks will present sometimes. So let's type in supplies, and we've got a couple of options here. So this is a good example of making sure that you're selecting the right account. If you refer back to your chart of accounts, you'll notice that the supplies and equipment, 5030, this is actually an asset account. So these are for bigger supply and purchase of equipment that will then be potentially depreciated. So this account lives on your balance sheet. It's an asset. We do not want to code an expense to this account. So taking a look at the details here, I noticed that, all right, I've got office supplies, and this is in the 6,000s numbering series. That is an expense, and that is where I want to code this to. So this, coding it here, will then allow it to appear on your P&L as an expense, which is where we want this one. So for this next one, we will create a rule. We're going to add our vendor. So for this, we're going to select office supplies and equipment as well. And once we have this information in here, we are going to come down here and select create a rule. You'll get this sidebar pop out over here, and we'll be prompted to complete a number of fields setting up the parameters of the rule. So in general, the rule is whenever something meets these parameters, QuickBooks is going to then pre-categorize it with what you've told it to use. So typically I like to use the vendor name. And the account category. So then if I have to go and review the rules every now and then, I know what vendor and what account it's coding to. First parameter, is it money in or money out? This particular transaction is an expense transaction, so it's going to default to money out. And this is in our business checking bank feed. So this is also pre-selected here. You can select all bank accounts if this transaction is going to appear in another bank account and the same rules apply. Now we can add other conditions in addition to these, and perhaps there's a certain description that can differentiate this being coded as office supplies versus being coded as something else. We can also choose an amount that is less than maybe $100. And if this particular transaction meets these parameters, so money out, it's in your business checking, the amount is less than 100. I'm going to add a description contains. So what's important here is the description is to reference back to what's pulling through from your bank detail, because that will typically be what will be coming in this category in the future. So if I know that this mental wellness supplies is always going to pull in from my bank detail, then I can use it when I set up this rule. And mental illness supplies, always less than $100, is always going to be this category, then I'm safe to set this rule up. So it's an expense, there's the category, and then here's our vendor name. So we want all of those things selected, and QuickBooks will use this bank memo here, the bank detail that's pulling through automatically, to be replaced from any future transactions that meet these parameters. You can also select to keep the existing bank memo. This toggle down here automatically confirms transactions that match these conditions once they're downloaded from the bank. If you turn this off, it means that you will see the transaction in your bank feed like we're seeing now. With the category selected, you will still have to click confirm. So when you're first setting up these rules, I do recommend that you leave this off so that you are seeing how it works, making sure it's set up properly first before you go full forward into automating. It's very, very important that this is working in the way that you want it to work before you automate, and then things are happening behind the scenes without you necessarily knowing where they're going, how to fix errors. So turn this off and then hit save. Then you'll notice across the top here, there's a section called rules. There is a tutorial here, and then we can go to rules. So now we're going to see any rules that we created will show up here. I don't want to go too deep into this right now. I just want to show you that once you are confident that that rule is working exactly as you've set it up, and you'll be able to tell that by going through your bank transactions and noticing every time this vendor comes up and the expense is less than $100, that you do want it to code to this category. So if you're noticing like, oh, actually, sometimes I need to code it to this category, then you might need to change the rule or delete the rule if it's causing more trouble than it's worth. But if you find that this is exactly as you want it to be and there are no changes, at least for the foreseeable future, you can then come into the screen and toggle this back on. When we do that, we won't need to confirm those transactions anymore. They'll automatically be coded and pushed through your bank feed without you needing to click. So now you'll see that you've got the auto add button here to indicate that that is automatically coding and pushing it through your bank feed without you needing to do anything. So to show you a bit more about how these rules can help streamline, this is the vendor that we just set a rule up. However, you can see here that the amount is greater than what we've stipulated in the rule. And I use the search bar to try to bring up any transaction with this vendor name. We can see that we've got all of these transactions from mental wellness supplies, and they're all over $100, which means our rule doesn't apply to these. So I can review this, and if I can confirm like, yep, these are all going to apply to that category, then I'm going to go back over here, edit my rule, and I'm going to do anything under $1,000. So now we're active, it's auto add. And we're going to go back to our transactions here. And you'll see that now those transactions have been fully cleared out without me having to click confirm for every single one. If I go to categorized, you'll notice they've all been pushed through here. Once I turned that rule on and I turned the auto confirm toggle on. So this just goes to show you how powerful that can be once you are sure that you've got your rule set up properly. And then it is also helpful that QuickBooks puts in this rule here, shows you if it's a rule, shows you if it's auto confirmed. So even if it's not on auto, it will note that it is categorized from a rule. So you can imagine that once you do a lot of this categorizing up front and really take your time to go through the details, set up the rules, that this can really save a ton of time spent doing the bookkeeping, not to mention increase the accuracy of the data by using those rules and setting them up appropriately can make sure that your transactions are going to the right account every time. And leaving the ones that don't, leaving the ones that truly need you to review and manually make sure that they're going to the right account. So I am going to end this video here. I hope you've been able to learn how to initially link your bank account, select the right accounts, map them to your checking and savings account inside QuickBooks, and then learn the process of categorizing, adding vendor, adding customer names, not your patient names, but the all customer, so that you can code your deposits to a generic all customers account, and then start to get comfortable categorizing your transactions and perhaps creating some rules. Let me know if you have any questions, comments. Feel free to reach out with any additional help you need, and have a great day. Thanks.